Hey, you're hanging out in the Link Up Lounge. I'm Tiffany Mason.
And I'm Donna Ruppel. Around here, we believe success isn't just about what you know, it's about who you link up with. This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Donna, it blows my mind that the two of us have over 30 years of combined networking experience.
I know! We've built businesses, expanded networks, and created unstoppable momentum, all through the power of strategic connections.
AKA networking. And now we're here to guide you to do the same, starting today.
So let's dive in, connect, and start making moves you didn't even know were possible.
Welcome back to the Link Up Lounge. I'm Tiffany Mason with Virtual You, the boutique podcast management agency, and I'm here with my co-host, Donna Ruppel, your Nocatee real estate expert.
This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities. And today's link is all about value, but not just information. We're talking about application.
We've all been to events where someone's talking a lot, but you are left wondering, what do I do with that information? They just rambled on, and you're like, okay, that was a lot. Don't remember. Good. And I think really what you remember that person is like, oh, they talk a lot. Like you didn't remember the business. You didn't remember anything that you could connect other people with. As a talker. So we have takers and talkers.
Yes, exactly. The people who stand out are the ones who leave you thinking, I can actually use that today. How can I connect with that person, or how can I implement what their service is? That's what we're diving into, how to bring real, applicable value into your networking.
I know I've talked before that I feel like everybody is looking for ways to apply the information that we learn. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today is how can you be having a conversation with somebody, they get something, a nugget that they can apply to their business right away. Because when someone learns something from you and they get that quick win, even a small win, they remember you, they trust you, and now they want more of what you have to offer.
So today we are showing you how to turn your knowledge into quick wins that build connection, credibility, and most importantly, long-term referrals.
And don't worry, you don't need to teach a whole class. You just need to be intentional about what you share and how you share it.
So here's the truth, really. I mean, people are flooded with information, right, Tiffany? Like from every direction in life, we're flooded with information. So they are typically not looking for more ideas. They're looking for something they can use right now. So if you can deliver, application. If you can deliver a quick win, that's what we mean by quick win, something they can use right now, you are going to be way more memorable.
Nobody's expecting you to know it all. It's just these little nuggets that we're so close to our businesses. Like what is just, I guess I'm going to say quote unquote obvi. What is obvi that you could share with your with people that you're connecting with? It's just about being the most helpful. So that could be a tip, a question, a resource, a podcast, a way to reframe something. I know I am a big fan of devil's advocate, or like that's what I value the most in my friendships or even my business relationships is somebody that can help me see it from another point of view. I know I was on a networking call yesterday and we talked a lot about that, like just reframing things. You know, what is this struggle right now? Why is that a struggle? And how can we reframe that to feel a little bit easier for you? I mean, anything that will help them take one step forward. We've talked about lead magnets before. This could be one of those times where you slip in, hey, you know, I struggled with that too. And I have this thing on my website. If you want to go download it, might help you too. Print it out and see what you can do, how you can digest that information and use it in your business.
Yeah. So, I mean, just be thoughtful about, you know, when you show up to a networking event, ask yourself, what is one helpful thing I can offer today?
Right. Now let's get practical. So here are a few simple ways that you can offer value in a conversation without being salesy and overwhelming. Share your go-to tool that you use that might help them. So in our networking call, I know we always do a success tip. And this is like something that people are using in their business. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's a book, a quote, a practice, whatever it is, you know, and share that with them based on their struggles. You know, I kind of feel like when I'm at a networking event or even like the networking calls, I am constantly like almost stressed out. Like the person is talking about what they need. And I'm like, okay, how can I connect them? Is it a tip? Like, I feel like I'm just searching through all the little files in my brain and I'm like frantically like figuring out, like, I don't know why I feel the need to help everybody or to offer something to everybody. But there is a little piece of me that panics a little bit. And I'm like, okay, who do I know? But based on what they said, what am I going to share with them? What could it be? Like I kind of get a little spazzy in my brain.
Yeah, I get that.
You can also offer a mindset shift that they may not have heard of before. Yesterday in this networking call, we were talking about how video feels like a struggle for me to edit because I don't find the value in it like everybody else does. Or I should say, like, the narrative in the podcasting space is all about video. And so we were talking about video and, maybe looking at it through the client's eyes, how that's what they hear and that's what they want. And I'm not going to persuade them otherwise. So, how can I provide that with the best value and the joy that it brings the client? And so that was really a good way to kind of flip that and think about it in a different way. So sometimes it's just helping somebody, like I said, see the other coin of the struggle that you may be having, a mindset shift, a reframing. You can also recommend a resource. So I know I've shared plenty of podcast episodes. I know you have too, Donna, a book that comes up often in our success tips, or even a person. Like you and I have talked about how much we love connecting people with other people. And that would be a great time. They say, oh man, I'd love to get this house sold, but it's obvious when people use the bathroom plugs up and then they're like, is there a problem with the plumbing? And so, maybe you just need a good plumber and maybe you've met a good plumber. And so you can say, hey, I have a plumber that you could use. Or ask them just a great question that helps to clarify their own next step, challenge them and get them thinking. And then they realize like, wow, that's a good collaboration partner. They really brought some good ideas to the table. So just thinking about what their struggles are, what they're talking about, and how can you challenge that, reframe that, and give them a quick win for applying it towards their business.
And remember, like sometimes listening really truly is the value. Sometimes when people are talking about a business that really doesn't necessarily connect with mine, I find that I'm listening. And if I can't think of like the go-to tool that might help them or recommending a resource, those kind of things, I do definitely fall back on what is a different way to look at this, like the mindset shift that you spoke of. I definitely kind of fall back on that if I don't have like a resource that I can provide. But then even if there's not a good mindset shift, I think that sometimes, like you said, asking a great question, my go-to question for those type of situations really are like, how can I help you? Or what is the best way to help you? Or what exactly are you looking for as a solution? Is there a way I can help you find a solution? When you're in these short conversations at networking events too, you can't get into the weeds on these conversations,
Right?
like you can't do a deep dive and ask all the details, you're looking for this quick exchange that's gonna, be a light bulb moment for them. And sometimes I remember we had a member in one of our other groups of Bond and Beyond, and she would ask, how can I best help you today? And I remember that was one of those questions that made you kind of go, oh, well, let me think about that. Okay, today you could, help me in this way.
Yes.
Having even just the listening of the issue and then, giving someone space to process and reflect is also a gift that you can give that people notice. So all of those things that you mentioned, I think are great kind of in your bag of tricks to go to. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on, their business and the conversation, because some things really hit
Right.
home. It's a topic you're familiar with, and
Yeah.
you feel really versed in it and you have tools to offer. And other times it's like, no, we got nothing in common here. My world doesn't overlap with your world, but that question at the end may be enough to get them to think of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes me think of, again, that speed networking event that you went to and that girl that showed up and she was just as defeated. And you were able to say, like, okay, so what differentiates you? Even just that question, just challenging them on that. And you didn't have a lot of time to dig into that, but, it probably gave her a little boost of confidence to move to that next seat and follow that guy and speak, more highly of herself or provide value, show the value that she provides. But the biggest block to sharing value is thinking that it has to be this big, magnificent, aha, light bulb, whoa. No.
Yeah.
As business owners, as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we are looking for some real simple things to do, okay? Maybe it's you went on my website and you think one button should say something different than what it actually says, right? Like instead of book a call, maybe it should say let's connect or whatever, right? But, sometimes we're so close to our businesses, what's obvious to us could really be life-changing for somebody else. So many people do not understand how podcast becomes a podcast. And depending on who I've connected to, they're thinking about a podcast or they're excited about a podcast. And they're like, but this is one of the questions on the discovery call I hear a lot is like, how does a podcast become a podcast though? Like you have this audio. How does it get onto the podcast players, So sometimes it's just having those conversations and they go, oh, and I know I'm a DIYer. So I have nothing against somebody who wants to go and do their own podcast. Like, go crazy. I think that's great. Save yourself the expense and enjoy doing it. So any way that I can help make that process easier for them, or somebody already has a podcast and we've talked about how they could better manage it, or we could discuss the flow of the episodes. I think one of the biggest things that people have taken away from me is I love a tagline at the end of a podcast because it gives your regular listener a heads up that the episode is over. Like I think we just have so much coming at us and we're, thinking about things while we're listening to podcasts or we're doing things while we're listening to podcasts. And I just like kind of putting that little bow on the end of the episode. Like we always say, let's keep making those links one connection at a time. And I really love that. I love a tagline at the end of a podcast. So that's something super easy that they could think about and walk away with. And then I love to offer up for people to record in their closets. Although with podcasts and everybody thinking that they need video, a lot of people don't like the aesthetics of the closet, but the acoustics are really good in a closet. And if you guys could see my setup, I mean, I'm in my office. I have some sound acoustic panels, but I have a blanket draped over my screen. I have a pillow next to it. So it's just absorbing all kinds of any echo that could be in the room. And so just helping people to even improve their audio, because when you're listening to an audio only podcast, they only have your audio. So it needs to be good. But lastly, I would say sharing a podcast, right? So if you're listening to somebody and they've got health struggles, you could share a podcast about health. If you're listening to somebody and they've got struggles about, their faith or something, you could share a podcast about faith, just whatever they're saying. Or maybe they just need to I always call it letting my brain ooze. So what are the podcasts that I listen to just for fun? You don't always have to listen to a podcast to learn something or to get better. Sometimes you just need a little mental break. And a podcast can be even great for that. So yeah, it's like we said, sometimes we're just so close to our business, we don't realize the value that could come in these small tips or these small tools.
Yes, I remember when I was first getting started back in real estate and I spoke to another agent and asked her for tips, and she was so awesome. But she said, a couple tips regarding the industry, but then she said, it's a great podcast is listen to, this podcast or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll tune into that because she said it's a great podcast, right? So by listening to that podcast, there were just so many good tips that were given. And so a podcast can be a great tool because, you don't have all this time to talk to people and give them all the information. So a podcast kind of is a connection point for them to get value and for them to get content and all the things that
just
could
took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. And so it's like so much there. But then, as you said, sometimes you're so close to your business, you don't realize what a valuable tip really could be or is, And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think that is the real struggle. Like you think, what is something of value I can give? But it's probably the most basic thing. I recently had a client and he, older couple. And so I just assumed that they knew the process of getting pre-qualified. right? Because that's such a basic thing in shopping for homes that I just assumed they'd bought and sold homes before, that they understood the process of getting pre-qualified. And it wasn't until months into our relationship and searching and all the things, we were just getting ready to start going and actually physically looking at homes. And the husband was like, hey, could we just, have a quick meeting over coffee to discuss like what we're supposed to be doing in the mortgage side? Like, should we be getting pre-qualified? And I was like, oh my gosh,
What?
like all the things that I just assumed. Now, if they were a younger or first time buyer, of course, I would have been more focused on that part. But because they were older and they had bought and sold many homes, I just figured, but their last home they purchased 10 years ago. So they probably just don't remember, which I totally get. It's those things that when you're super close to your business, you don't realize that the simplest thing could be super valuable to somebody. And so sometimes that's the thing to say that leaves people going, oh, yeah, because it's like, what's the first step in, shopping for a home? And I'm probably going to say getting pre-qualified, but also figuring out your exact wants and the difference between wants and needs. Like what are your needs? What are your wants? Because, you're probably not going to find 100% of everything. So
I don't
figuring that
understand
out.
that. Say more about that. I don't understand that.
So, like some people are like, we need to have 3 bedrooms because we have 2 kids.
Got it.
I want to have a screened-in heated pool on the lake,
I thought you were talking about needs versus wants for your quick win. And I was like,
no. No, like if you're shopping for a home, needs versus wants is a good place to start. And then getting pre-qualified, right? So, but I didn't share that with somebody, so when you're talking to somebody, let's say they're in a business totally different than yours. So I'm going to say super different than mine might be like, I don't know, energy healing.
Podcasting?
Okay? Podcasting. Yeah. Well, it's funny because when we started this podcast, of course, I was like, I don't need to know anything because you're just going to take care of it, which is magical. Okay. Because it just magically happens. But I do remember I was like, I'm not even really sure how this works. Like, how does this, we record and then somehow it gets on the platform? And you were like, yep. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I was like a client, that I was paying you and we had this not a friendship, just this professional relationship, I would probably ask more questions about it, but I trusted you because we're friends. And so I was like, whatever, she's going to make this happen. And I don't have to, clog up my brain. But, if you were talking to me and you were like, I'm having a really hard time translating, the beginning steps of how to get started with me, I would definitely have some feedback. I'd be like, well, they probably want to know how to do this, this, and this. And they're probably going to be the most basic things that you've already been like, oh my gosh, they don't even know that. And I'm going to go, that is correct. Nobody knows that. Okay. So realizing, like you said, you are so close to your business that the simplest things might be the difference maker in how you're going to convey the value of what you offer in your business.
Well, and I think a great place to think about that or to explore what that could be is in a networking group. If you are part of one that you attend on a regular basis, once you think that everybody really does understand your business, or even if they don't understand it, you would just say hey, when you think of me, if you were to see me at a networking event, what would be something super quick that I could share with you that you would understand? Some people don't know how to do the reviews. They don't know how to do 5 stars. They don't know even where to play a podcast. Some people think it's only Apple on your iPhone, and there's lots of other places that you can play podcasts. So yeah, I think if you don't know where to get started, if something is not glaring at you in the eye, if you can't remember a frequently asked question, maybe ask some people, close to you, what would be something you would ask me, or what would be a piece of valuable information I could share as a quick win for someone. So share freely, be generous, and you're not giving away the whole cake. You offer a bite, makes them want to come back for more. But honestly, in my experience, is even if you give them the whole cake, they may say, I do not want to bake this. I don't want to buy the ingredients. I don't want to bake this cake again. I will give this information over to you because you bake cakes every day.
Right?
So
yeah, people remember who helped them have a new thought or take a step forward in their business. They are certainly going to remember somebody who impressed them, but impressing in a networking group is not necessarily the win, I will say, because sometimes
Agreed.
that person who is so impressive also becomes sort of unapproachable and
Yeah.
not relatable. And you don't want to be that person, because some people go in thinking like, I have to impress everybody. I have to be the best dressed. I have to be the most well-spoken. I have to have the best, I don't know, business card or offering or
That's a
whatever.
good way to get imposter syndrome.
Yes, totally. But really, if you can just be real, be vulnerable, connect with people, go into a networking event, not that you have to impress everybody, but that you want to connect and exchange ideas, tips, suggestions, those kind of things, then people are going to definitely feel more connected to you. They're going to remember you certainly as a in a much more approachable, positive way.
I think there's a lot of value too in being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, I had that struggle before and this is what I did."
Mhm.
That's tried and true, and you're gaining the trust, and I think a likability factor. I
Right.
know I shouldn't admit this out loud, but I do like a person more once I know that they've had a struggle, right? Like
Sure.
if you just are floating on clouds and everything's going A-okay, probably not my vibe. Like I want someone who can be real and say, "Ugh, I struggled with that before too, and this is what I did." So again, going back to that, quick win or quick application. Next time you connect with someone, you don't need to try to wow them. You're just trying to help them. I think that's just how I am. I know we've talked about being connectors in the past, and man, anything I can do just to help someone. There are so many hats that we wear, and how can I make things easier for someone? Like help a sister out, help a fellow
Right.
small business owner.
Right. And I mean, it could be something like we've said, as simple as somebody going, I'm just so like at this point in the year, I hear a lot of entrepreneurs going, oh my gosh, like basically accounting, like financial. I am so unorganized, and maybe sharing something like, oh my gosh, I use this app. Now I use it all year long, so it'll help you next year. But it automatically does this, that, and the other, or whatever. I just
Yeah.
had that conversation with somebody recently, and they were like, well, I'm obviously using that for next year. But what do I do about this year? And I'm like, maybe a bookkeeper or somebody that'll help you now. But even little things like that, I mean, that obviously has nothing to do with my industry, but it's like a tool that I as an entrepreneur use that I think could help you, So those
That's
type of
awesome.
things it doesn't need to be a groundbreaking business specific thing. It's just
Right.
a little thing. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay, Donna, are we ready for networking mode on?
Yes, of course.
Okay, it's time for networking mode on. Think of a quick win your audience or clients always appreciate and share it in your next conversation, event, or post. Keep it simple, clear, and helpful. Whether it's a mindset tip or a practical shortcut, make it something that someone can use today. Networking mode on.
If this episode sparked a new idea for you on how you can offer value, send us a quick text using the link in the show notes. We want to hear your go-to tip or even what kind of wins someone got because of you. We read every message and we love hearing how you're putting this into action. Let's keep building those powerful links together. You've been hanging out in the Link Up Lounge, your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Now it's your turn. Go make a powerful link today.
Networking mode on.